This is the Nassaumen Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zeller. How nice was that roof department shootout goal winner by Anthony Beauvillier tonight? Woo, baby. I just wish he could do that in the game.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the shootout.
Yeah.
I love that Butch always calls it, or at least he tries to.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting in the beginning of the shootout, and obviously we'll get to this because this was the fourth of 4 games that we're going to talk about for the Islanders.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that the first 4 shooters, so 2 for the Islanders and 2 for the Bruins, were all right-handed shots. Thought that was, I don't know why I picked up on that, but I thought it was weird.
On that.
Until Beauvillier shot, it was all right-handed shots. And
that was the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess, right? Throw the lefty in there and shake it up.
Correlation, I suppose. we can chalk it up there. That's good enough for me. They won, so it works right now, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's start off the night with Around the Rink, brought to you by DraftKings. It's that time of year again. Bubble teams are making their final push for a bid, while the top seeds are preparing for what they hope to be a long run in the playoffs. And DraftKings is giving all customers a free shot at up to $100,000 in total prizes. All you have to do is head up to DraftKings and make your picks. Download the DraftKings app, head to their free-to-play pools page, and enter DraftKings free $100,000 tournament seeding pool. Free-to-play pools are easy to play. All you have to do is make your picks for who you think will win and get a ticket into March's biggest tournament. If you have the most answers correct, you win. The bank is open. Download the DraftKings app now and use the promo code THPN to get a free shot at a share of $100,000 in total prizes. With DraftKings Tournament Seeding Pool, that's promo code THPN to get a free shot at $100,000 in prizes only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Around the Rink. So let's talk a little bit about some news in the NWHL Isobel Cup will take place March 26th to the 27th at Warrior Ice Arena in Brighton, Massachusetts, and it will air on NBC Sports. The hockey community has some members to shout out as well. It was International Women's Day yesterday or 2 days ago as you're hearing this, and we just want to shout out Jen Botterill, Shannon Hogan, and AJ Melzcko because they've just been superb on the Islanders broadcasts and calling Islander games and not even that. Sometimes, they make appearances on broadcasting, international levels and everything. And they've just been fantastic. We're really lucky to have 3 of, in my opinion, the better women calling the game nowadays. So shout out to those 3. We're really happy to have them on our side.
Yeah, the 3 of them have been just really good broadcasters. They've really made the Islanders broadcast very good, although I don't think Jen Botterill's been on this season. She has been on Sportsnet,
right?
Some other broadcasts as well,
yeah.
But still really cool. And I retweeted an article, or reshared an article rather, that I wrote last year around this time about how the Islanders continue to pave the way for women in sports media. They've kind of always been on the forefront of that, and I think it's really cool. It's something that they're clearly they're clearly on the right side of things, and they kind of always have been. Someone reminded me actually of something the other day of Barbara Williams, and if you don't know who that is, it was a power skating coach in the 80s. I don't know if she was in the 70s, but she was a power skating coach, the first woman power skating coach in the NHL, and happened to be part of the Islanders organization. So another cool thing there, and just kind of paving the way. The organization's again on the forefront of just doing the right thing. And I don't think it's just I wouldn't categorize this team as the team broadcasters, that is, as being some of the best women in hockey. It's some of the best broadcasters, some of the best in the business. So really cool, really important, and happy International Women's Day. If a couple days late, because we record on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So we're late anyway, but by the time you're listening to this, it'll be 2 days away. But happy International Women's Day to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the NHL news. Some news trickled out today. Sportsnet Chris Johnston reported on Tuesday that the NHL and ESPN reached a 7-year deal on one half of the TV rights of the United States. So ESPN and the NHL are now in agreement, and there's going to be a partnership there.
I don't know that it's an official. I think there were like murmurs, so I don't want to get too excited, but that usually it probably is pointed in that direction. So that was my fault for writing that in.
Was it just murmurs? The report was from the Score. I guess sometimes they're a little 50.
I don't think it's official. We would have seen something from the NHL.
Yeah,
I think so. This is reporting.
Yeah, but the financial details are not clear yet. So I guess keep an eye and an ear out on what's to come with ESPN because it sounds like things are getting close. Tom Wilson suspended 7 games for a high check on who was the high check on? I forget who it was against.
Is it Frederick?
I think it was against the Bruins and Frederick, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. But someone will tweet us and let us know we're wrong.
I thought it was definitely a bad hit, and I thought it was a really poor job on the referees in that game, right? Because he throws the hit up high, no call.
But that happens.
It does.
I mean, just like tonight, right? It's Wallstrom's high hit or from behind or whatever you want to call it, right, wrong, or indifferent, isn't called until after Marchand jumps in.
That's
no
true.
One's arm is up.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't understand the order of things.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they only call the first penalty when there's a retaliation.
Right.
Now, this, in this case, it's kind of that, but I never quite understand how that works. And that hit from that Wilson threw, people are saying, oh, he's only getting suspended 7 games because he's Tom Wilson on the Capitals. Although the repeat offender thing apparently does just go poof after a certain amount of time, which is nonsense.
It's like a probation thing. Be good for X amount of
time. I don't
know.
I meant to look into it before the show, and I didn't because it was going to aggravate me. But it apparently just goes away. And there are arguments about if it was the head was the principal point of contact, and I really wish that wasn't part of it. If the head is being contacted, that you're trying to get these head hits out of the game, just get them out of the game. But just police it and suspend it out of the game so that people aren't making these hits. It's going to happen here and there when, like Wallstrom tonight, player falls awkwardly into the boards. Wallstrom's already kind of going in for the hit.
Yeah.
It was kind of on the numbers. He should have been letting up anyway and making sure he turned.
Right. Well, and that's what happened, right? So we could talk about that for a second because it kind of relates to the Wilson hit. I think it was against Frederick too. It might have been Frederick.
I honestly can't remember.
He's going to play the puck against the boards, and Wallstrom wasn't really going for the hit, right? He's
going to body him off the puck.
He was just right. He's going to give him a little nudge.
Although Wallstrom does play with a little bit of an edge.
Sure.
And that's not a bad thing for the Islanders on the third line.
Absolutely.
So I don't know that, or maybe he was going for that. I don't know.
But the point is, before he made contact, but he already committed to the hit. But before he made contact, Frederick lost an edge. And that's what made it look worse than it actually was. Because he started to go down already, and Wallstrom was already committed. Right. So, but the difference here is Tom Wilson just came up, he came in with a real dirty hit. I mean, it didn't look like there was any intent to hold back or anything like that. And like I was saying before, there was no call. And what makes that worse is that he's still in the game now. There was no penalty. Usually, those are 5-minute penalties, could be 10-minute misconducts, and then they're out of the game. But now he gets into 2 fights after, and yes, he threw the hit, and unfortunately somebody could have gotten hurt, but you don't want 2 guys getting hurt, and now he's staying in the game. Other guys are coming after him. Now they're fighting. I don't know, just a bad job all around in that game.
I don't like it.
NHL player safety takes a look at it after the game and says, okay, this is worthy of a suspension. And I guess it makes sense that they gave him the suspension, even though there was no penalty, because he has to stop.
That happens quite often,
right?
Where there's no penalty on the play, but there's supplemental action.
Yeah,
and I think that's good. It's better than absolutely nothing being done. But I don't know why there's such a disconnect, and maybe that's the problem that ultimately my issue. There's a disconnect between what the refs think is a penalty,
right,
and what the league thinks is suspendable. Why those things aren't mutually exclusive to a degree.
Right.
There could be a penalty on the play and there be a suspension. There shouldn't be a suspension with no penalty. That doesn't make any sense to me. There could be a penalty with no suspension. That's fine. It could be a 5-minute boarding, 5-10 in a game, or whatever. They can figure that out. But which I suppose is a 1-game suspension. But I don't like that there's that disconnect there. And it's not about that if the head was the second point of contact or even the third point of contact. It was he got a real good piece of that guy's head.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. He targeted the head, or at least he hit the head. Doesn't really matter if he targeted or not. That's what happened. So it just and somewhat it's a little surprising because he's cleaned up his game quite a bit. He's not really been in the headlines in that regard in a while. But just like Marchand, up to just different antics and whatever's going on. Yeah, eventually he's going to get caught.
Yeah, absolutely. So 7 games for Tom Wilson. And we'll see how it goes for him when he gets back. I'm sure it won't be his last. I don't know. What do you think? You think he'll take another one?
I don't know. I mean, he's also a really big guy that plays with an edge.
Yeah.
That is offensively minded. Like he could just lay a hit, and someone could turn at the last second, or somebody could. It's all these reactionary plays, and I kind of remember doing this. And luckily, and I never really got hurt, and neither did anybody else. But when someone beat you, they got around you, you were going for the hit. They, what does Butch say? Deacon and a dive in. They kind of go, they go one way, and you thought they were going to go the other way, and you missed the hit, and you stick your knee out a little bit, or your leg. You're just frustrated in the moment, and you don't really do it that often. It's not something that happens all the time. At least it shouldn't be happening all the time. So, it could be one of those plays. He could just get beat and stick out a knee, and that's that's something else, or just catches somebody in the wrong spot, and it's a head hit. I mean, he's a very tall individual. So I don't know. Hopefully he cleans his game up. I don't like to see that, and I hope that the guy's okay. I don't think it was Frederick, because I don't think he should have been playing in this game. I can't remember or at least maybe he wasn't playing in this game. I can't remember. But at least Wilson will not be in the lineup against the Islanders the next time that they play this month.
It's very true.
There's some silver lining there, I guess.
Yeah, and the point of all of this, cleaning the game up is to really just make sure that there's no long-lasting effects on players, after they're done playing the game, and they can move on from playing the game and live these healthy lives. And that's a contributing factor, actually, to what we want to talk to you about right now. Before we get to On the Island, we want to talk to you about a new show coming to the Hockey Podcast Network called We're All a Little Crazy, with hosts Theo Fleury, Darren Rovell, and Eric Cusin. Yes, you heard that right. Former NHLer Theo Fleury will be part of the Hockey Podcast Network with We Are All a Little Crazy. The podcast is about mental health, sports, society, experiences, and education. So without further ado, enjoy this little promo that we have here for you right now.
Now a show that's going to give you the truth about the biggest epidemic of our times. We're all a little crazy.
We're All a Little Crazy is brought to you by the Same Here Global Mental Health Movement and the Hockey Podcast Network. Available on all podcast apps. Do us a favor and download each episode before you listen. And if you're an Apple user, please rate and review the podcast, as it helps us get these important conversations out to reach a larger audience.
Really cool stuff there. Excited to have guys like Theo, Darren, and Eric coming on the network. It's going to be, I think it's going to be great.
It's definitely important. And Emily Kaplan actually had an article out today that the podcast is part of this Same Here global movement. You can follow them at @SameHere_global on Twitter. And they shared the article, and it was about how Emily Kaplan wrote this article about how COVID and the pandemic and going through the league right now and playing in the NHL is taking a little bit of a toll on NHLers.
Yeah.
And probably just pro hockey players. It's probably brutal in the AHL right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely pertinent. It's something that's been bubbling up more and more over the last few years. The different issues within the NHL off the ice. So really, really excited. Happy that the Hockey Podcast Network is kind of taking this on and taking this issue on and brought all this in, and super cool to be sharing a network with Theo Fleury.
Yeah.
Even in name only, even if it's just I'm on a network with Theo. No big deal. Not a big deal. So yeah, no, it's great. I'm proud to be a part of this. We've this might be our 1 month anniversary. 1 month anniversary.
1 month anniversary. I think you're right. Anniversary. This might be our 1 month anniversary.
Happy 1 month anniversary, Hockey Podcast Network. Happy to be part of all of this and promoting a great show. It's great.
All right. Let's trek out to On the Island and let's talk about the week that was. We sweep Buffalo. We go 5-0 this week. Penguins, New Jersey, and then the Buffalo Sabres 3 times.
You said 5-0, and I really had to think about that there were 5 games in the week, and that
was 5.
Crazy.
Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday to Sunday, and they go 5-0. And look, yes, New Jersey and Buffalo is not the hardest schedule, especially when you're playing Buffalo 3 times. But the thing is, and I tweeted this, and some people had comments on the schedule. Listen, elite teams get the job done, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. It's not like the Sabres don't have Jack Eichel, Taylor Hall, Sam Reinhart, Rasmus Ristolainen, etc. They have good pieces, and they could squeak out wins. They're not the best coached. They're not structured the best, and it's sad to see what's going on in Buffalo, but they are still an NHL hockey team. They still have pieces that on that team that have and know how to be successful in this league. So the Islanders secured the points because they had a job to do, and they executed. And that's what's called being an elite hockey team. They had a job and they got it done.
I mean, people can say what they want about the division and how many games they won against the Sabres and whatever. The Islanders can only play who the schedule is telling them to play.
Exactly.
When. So they had 3 games against the Sabres. They've played them 6 times. They've won those games. They've also beaten the Bruins 4 times now.
Right.
So
now 4 times because
4 times for whatever that's worth. And it's just the way that it is right now. In any season, the schedule changes. You play harder teams. You go on West Coast trips. You're not playing. It doesn't matter. This year, this is all. You can only judge them based on who they're able to play. It's in the division. It's just what it is.
Right.
And I hate that saying, but it really is this year.
But it is, because these are the cards that they were dealt. This is the schedule that they got. And granted, they weren't supposed to play Buffalo 3 times in a row this week, but the schedules changed because of COVID reasons. And I think they had they had a week off, right? And towards the beginning of the year, because their opponents, I think it might have been the Sabres. They had
games scheduled against the Sabres. They're the ones that happened to have games canceled.
Right.
And things got moved around, but so every team is going to have that opportunity,
and everyone's going through this.
And I think what's interesting is, so if the Islanders lose, they're a shitty team.
Oh,
but if they win, it's
100%.
Well, it's the Sabres. Okay,
right?
Okay, whatever. And then I'm not really hearing any shit when Boston loses to New Jersey,
right?
And now this is their second they're 0-1-1, but their second loss in a row.
Right.
No wins anyway. And no one's giving them shit.
Right. I think the Islanders have 6 points in hand on them now. I think
I didn't look at it. I went from my TV to my computer and didn't look at the standings. And,
I'm right.
Like
6 points in hand. Granted,
how many games more have
they have 3 games in hand?
I think, and I've said this on other shows, I don't mind that the Islanders. This is the first time this has happened that I can remember, that the Islanders actually have played more games and won those games. They're usually like, oh, they played 3 more games and they lost 2 of them.
Right.
So they lost the advantage. At least now, A, they're banked, and B, it's on other teams that they now play later in the month.
Right.
It's incumbent upon them to make up the points. So not only is Boston now behind the Islanders in points and in games played, but the Islanders have also beat them. So then the Boston
4 times.
Boston now is playing this catch-up mode for half a season to just make the playoffs because that top 5 in the division is already tough to begin with.
That's what I'm saying.
But the Islanders are separating themselves, and now it's a mush in those other 4 teams. So if the Islanders can knock other teams down, New Jersey gets a rogue win, and they beat Boston. If they can, if the Rangers, who also didn't win 10 against Pittsburgh, that would have been nice.
There was no help tonight.
No help tonight. But the Islanders didn't hurt. Usually, what happens is they lose to a team like Boston, who make up ground. Pittsburgh wins, Philadelphia wins, and it's screwed. Yeah. I didn't see if Washington also won.
Part of the evolution of this team.
Yeah, I mean, they're finally not getting in their own way. And obviously, what's the saying? They're controlling their own destiny. That's not a thing because you can't control your destiny. That's why it's destiny. P.S. If you could control it, it would just, I don't know what it'd be called. It would just be your future, I guess. Self-fulfilling prophecies or something like that, some fancy saying. So for the first time, the Islanders really are controlling what, if they lose a game, they know they've banked the points.
Right.
Very similar to kind of Toronto in the North Division where, they've beaten the teams and they're the best team. There's nothing they can do. These are the teams that they're able to play. It's not up to them who they play. This is just the hand that they're dealt, like you said, and they're making the point. So they lose. I think they lost actually to Vancouver twice for the weekend, and at least Friday and Sunday, something like that. Over the last few days, they lost twice to Vancouver, and you know what? It's not time to burn down the roster and make all these changes. The same thing. I would say that the Islanders might lose 2 games in a row. It's not time to blow things up and call for trades and all this crazy stuff. They bank the points. They need to beat the teams that are trying to chase them. At least steal a point from them.
Right.
They have enough regulation wins at this point where they can start here and there, just play the 3-point games, collect the points, even if you lose, make it harder for them. Tiebreakers and whatnot, because quote home ice advantage will still be good because they're playing very well at home. They've still yet to lose in regulation.
10-0-2.
Is 10 or now is 11?
10. I believe it's 10. 10-0-2. At home at Nassau Coliseum. Fort never lose.
Nope,
you're right. 11-0-2.
Yeah, I feel like I saw that earlier today, and now it's 11.
It's 11.
So yeah, the last Fort never lose, the last stand. That's a free shirt idea for somebody. Actually, that's not a bad shirt idea.
Oh boy, trademark. Nobody do this.
No one do this. Yeah, we're gonna do it overnight. So future. By the time you're listening to us in the future.
Yeah,
we've already done it, so don't even try.
But talking about the rankings and everything, just reminded me a couple days ago, I tweeted out the power rankings presented by NHL on NBC, right? And the Islanders were in the top 10. They fell. Well, they didn't fall. They actually rose, but they placed 6th. And it sparked a lot of debate in my mentions, just because again, I didn't make this list. I just tweeted it out. I saw it, and
no, James, you're responsible for what NBC tweeted.
Well, I mean, listen,
I would have you believe that.
some people don't read past, what they see right in front of them. But Islanders placed sixth. And it sparked debate, like I said. You had the Golden Knights first, the Lightning second, the Maple Leafs third, the Hurricanes fourth, the Panthers fifth, then the Islanders, Capitals, Bruins, Avalanche, and Blues. And what a lot of people were saying, it's a pretty decent argument. I wouldn't say that it's totally irrelevant, but a lot of people were saying, isn't the East Division the hardest division, and the Islanders are at the top of it? So wouldn't that make them the top team? It's really hard to say right now who the top team in the league is, because everybody's playing the same team over and over and over again. Is it the toughest division? Yes. Are the Panthers benefiting from a weaker division? Maybe.
I mean, they're also playing.
They're also playing.
Dredger is also playing out of his mind.
Out of his mind. There's a rivalry between Tampa and Florida now, which has never happened before. So that's awesome. But it's a decent argument that maybe they should be a little bit higher because they're in the toughest division, and they're, maybe if they played some teams in the Atlantic or out west, that would, or up north, it would look a little different, and that's probably true. But
do you personally put much stock in the power rankings? Because
no,
the fourth period had them third.
Okay.
Third or fourth. Isn't that what you sent today?
It's so subjective.
In the chat. I don't think about it too much.
Me neither.
It doesn't really mean anything.
No.
I tend to just go right to the explanation. Because of what we do, and because we write for the hockey writers and we do this, I know we both try to stay somewhat objective.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're trying to be, obviously I'm yelling on my couch and being an absolute lunatic, in the group chat, we all yell about stuff, and that's fine. But
you yell.
I'm the old man of the group by like 5 months. I go to the explanation because I think that's what's important. And they usually point in a pretty good direction.
Yeah.
Whether they're 16th or 28th or 3rd, doesn't really matter. The goaltending's weak, and the power play's this, and this is what's contributing. That's usually what I put and if anything from that stuff, because that's the actual analysis. Where they rank them, it's just writers in a room. Like,
exactly.
Not that I'm putting us anywhere close to, NBC analysts and former players and all this stuff, but I want to see the actual analysis. I don't really care where, because essentially, you're 100% right. This year in particular, it's impossible.
It's impossible
to tell the difference. Who's in what? And I kind of asked this question a couple weeks ago, right? Can we even tell who the top scorer in the league is? Or it's I don't know how you compare. It's different leagues right now. They're just like isolated different NHLs kind of happening. I don't know how you compare any of that. It's kind of like until the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're really going to know about any of these teams, because for the first time in 6 months, they're going to be playing a different team than they have before, possibly. Yeah. We really need to look at how that's going to work in the playoffs. I really don't know. But either way, in the playoffs, they will wind up playing a different team if they make it past presumably the first round. And it's going to be wild. It's going to be really difficult. They're going to have to watch tape for the first time all season, really dive in. It's going to be a lot of strategy. The coaches are really going to be worth their salt in going into the playoffs this year. So
not to get into too much more detail about how the playoffs are going to work, but it's really going to be more of a mental grind than a physical grind. I shouldn't say that, but there's going to be a bigger mental aspect to it this year than any other year ever, because it's going to be the first time in over a year that you're playing a different team. So
it'll be interesting to watch, and I'm kind of excited for that. I mean, fingers crossed. Islanders are in good position halfway through the season. We've seen worse collapses before, so from not even just from the Islanders in general, I don't suspect that will happen. This next March is make or break for this team.
You did right about that.
And I think just because they play the Flyers 3 times, that alone is the important part of this month.
It is important.
We'll know following that what this really looks like.
It is important, but the thing about the Flyers and the thing about the rest of this division that I said at the beginning of this season is that nobody is overly impressing me. And as unbiased as I could try to make this sound, I am impressed with the Islanders recently. 9-game point streak, 6 in a row, 4-0 against Boston. Philadelphia is not playing good hockey right now.
And hopefully the Islanders can catch them.
Exactly.
Here's where I stand on some things. I would have rather the Islanders, back when they lost both those games in Washington and in Philadelphia. I would have rather them at least get a point or win one game out of that, split those little mini series, and then lose a game or two against Buffalo. I would rather known that they can beat them and a cleaner record, because they're 0-2 against the Flyers and Washington.
And
I don't like that idea. I mean,
I honestly feel like we're talking about two different teams right now. We're talking about the team who, when they did drop those games, still trying to figure it out, right? There was no...
It was definitely a rough point.
It was a rough start.
This was Beauvillier.
No Beauvillier, no exhibition games, short camp. They were still trying to figure it out. They've hit their stride. And they're in mid-season form now.
Yeah, I mean,
it technically is mid-season, but they're in
this week.
Right,
will be the middle of the season. I want to see them continue that consistency. I think my issue with them is, and again, this is after 5 wins in a row and blah blah blah, 6 games in a row, not a big deal. I think the best part of the 3-game set with the Sabres is they really only played maybe a bad period and a half. And that's the consistency I was talking about last week. That was the part that can be the downfall, because the Islanders played pretty well against Boston tonight. A full 60 minutes. They didn't play fantastic, but they didn't have any letdowns. There was chances that went either way, and that happens. That's a hockey game. But if they lost this game, I would have been angry because they lost, but not by how they lost. And that's where I don't mind that this is fine. The fact that it went to a shootout, it was a 1-1 draw, fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I said, even if they lose in a shootout, even if they lost in overtime, because they played consistently over the last 4 or 5 games. Maybe the New Jersey game was kind of iffy. I feel like they played down to New Jersey a little bit. I think you mentioned that last week. They're playing down to some opponents at times, but they didn't do that, and they just turned it on against Buffalo, and that's the consistency, right? Like, we just need to see the Islanders playing their best, even if they don't win. Losing doesn't mean they didn't play a good game. We really need to recognize that. So now there's some momentum. They have a streak. They still have a few more games at home. So pretty long homestand.
I think it's four more.
Yeah, which I think is good mentally. They get to be at home, see their families, and then kind of ramp up for the second half of the season and the stretch run. But I'm, like I said, I think I'm the happiest by the fact, and the outlook is good because they're playing consistently. I haven't seen them really, again, outside of a period and a half maybe against the Sabres, they played just really well.
Yeah. Let's talk about who's probably playing arguably the best for the Islanders right now. And that goal. The goal. The possible goal of the year, which I find it hard to believe anyone's going to top it. It was very impressive. If anybody tops this goal, it's got to be, I don't know, they have to score while flying through the air. Matt Barzal.
It's got to be a between the legs Michigan.
Something.
That's or like some lacrosse move or some ridiculous
some 720 kickflip Tony Hawk edition goal, because that goal, first of all, he flips the puck up, gets it away from Ristolainen's stick, out muscles a 30-pound difference and he's losing that 30-pound difference. He outmuscles the 30-pound difference, gets in on the inside of Ristolainen, moves Hutton out of position, puts it between his legs, and scores the first goal of the game. That was the best goal he's ever scored since playing in the NHL. That has to be the goal of the year, if no other goals wow anybody by the end of the year. I mean, I don't know. There were a couple of good goals last week. I think Adam Fox with the Rangers had a nice coast-to-coast one, and Evgeny Malkin had a nice goal as well. But that one took the cake, and it took the cake for any really nice goal that happened this year. It was just, you're really seeing this kid evolve, man. You're really seeing him evolve.
I'll touch on the second part. Yes, we're seeing him evolve. We're seeing him make less mistakes. He's playing a more complete game. He's blocking shots. He's great on the back check. Some lackadaisical play here and there, but yeah, upwards of 90%. He's playing a complete game, and that's great. That's the Barry Trotz effect on your star player.
Yeah, especially over this 6-game stretch too. He's been really strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, that's good for momentum, building that consistency, knowing what you have to do night in, night out. And just as a team, I think they're just all playing well together. You see them, Barzal, Lee, and Eberle on the bench. They're laughing. They're in good spirits. They're best friends. They love each other, and that's what you want to see in the team. As far as the goal, quote the goal, I really haven't seen those types of goals on purpose. I've seen it where it's kind of like a last minute thing, and they're at the side of the net and they're trying to find the right angle. This seemed like really intentional. Like he kind of knew, he's like, this is a possibility. I'm doing this when I get there. And or he read the goalie or whatever the case is. You normally don't see that. Right. It's normally, like I said, it's or at least from these between the leg shots, where unless it was like Malik, and if you're too young, you won't know what that is. That shootout goal from the Rangers, I think that was like 2004, 7 something.
Sounds right.
An O number, an O something before 2010. So some of you might not remember. We're getting really far away from that. It's painful, but I usually outside of that, I feel like it's usually like they're standing still, side of the net. Not that takes anything away from them. I think was it Joe Pavelski? Someone had a ridiculous between the leg shot from like the slot. I don't remember, but I love that this was like full speed. He beats out Ristolainen, and the whole sequence is the goal, right? It's not just the ending, which is fantastic. It was from the red line in. There was a battle. It was 1-on-1 somehow on a 5-on-5 even strength play. It was a 1-on-1 battle from the red line in. Yeah. And then he pulls it off from like the dot to the net, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, this isn't the first time that Barzal scored a goal between the legs, right? He last year against the Florida Panthers in the bubble, actually, a puck caromed off the end boards and around the net, found him in front of the net, but he was like a little out of position. He put it between the legs and scored.
And that's what I mean. I feel like it's usually something like that, as opposed to like at game speed, like full out. Like still have to make,
which makes this one so much nicer, right? Makes this one so much better. The puck, he won the puck battle, the move, the fake. It was just a beautiful goal. I expect it to be the goal of the year. We'll see what happens, but
it'll be nice to see an Islander Islander involved in the goal of the year. Yeah, it's not a goal against.
And you know what, too? that's true. And on the flip side, tonight, Varlamov probably has a candidate for himself to have save of the year. He saved a shot on the power play or on the penalty kill for the Islanders. He stopped it with his stick. And I know Korpisalo also tonight did it for the Blue Jackets, and it probably was a little nicer than Varlamov's, but Varlamov did it as well. You know, he made a save. There was a rebound, and he just stuck his stick out, and he made another save. So, good things happening for the Islanders. Am I right? Including 5 players on the team currently right now with 9 or more goals. Lee with 12, Barzell with 9, Eberle with 9, Peugeot with 9, and tonight Brock Nelson scores his 10th of the season. I think that's 3 straight games for him. So they're the only team in the NHL to have that many players with 9 or more goals, and they were the only team before Nelson got his 9th with 4. So they're doing really well with spreading the wealth, everyone scoring, contributing, and the thing that I love too is right. Lee, Barzell, and Eberle, the first line, they're all scoring. But then you have Peugeot and Nelson, who are on 2 different lines as well. That means the third line scoring, the second line is scoring, and the fourth line is contributing somehow every night. They're really looking like themselves again, and it's looking great. I know, we talked about earlier in the year, is this Clutterbuck's last year? I don't know, something's missing. Suddenly, in the recent games, he's looked really good. He looked good again tonight. He was really fast.
Great tonight.
He looked really good.
His hands are back.
Yeah,
like he's got a little bit of a swagger. His hands are back. It's definitely the Clutterbuck that we.
Yeah, they haven't mentioned this, but maybe he's got feeling back in that part of his hand that he didn't have feeling in.
I don't know. I mean,
or he's gotten used to it.
He might just be feeling good. I mean, I just not being on the road, the team is really gelling. You'd be surprised what that energy will do.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're spending a little bit more time at home as of late. All that can kind of be playing a factor. And, once you start scoring a few goals, he scored a beauty.
Yeah.
The other day.
That backhand roofer.
You get a little bit of positive energy. You be amazed at what that'll do for your confidence. Yeah. And then when the line's playing well, I mean, I don't think he's really played that well even last year. I mean, he was injured and this and whatever, but it's the best we've seen him play in a while.
Yeah. And
the team needs it. And you wrote it was published today, right? Balanced scoring.
Yep.
So I mean, these 5 guys, and then plus just up and down the lineup, you can add in Cizikas and Martin and Wahlstrom and Bavillier's coming on slow, but he's looking good. His speed is back. His hands are back. He's got to finish. That's going to take some time. He's not played all that much yet. For the first time, we're really seeing balanced scoring up front.
Yeah,
and this is and the others are still scoring at a higher clip than what we're used to with them anyway. And this is with the defense. Letty's got a lot of assists, but he's got 1 goal, I believe. Dobson has 2 goals. I think Mayfield has 2.
Right.
And then Pulak doesn't have anything, and I don't think Green has a goal either. But Pulak, who was on, was on pace for a career year last year with points.
Yeah, he
is slow. And he's scored 9-10 goals a season. No, there's a lot of season left, but less likely he'll kind of hit that mark again.
I think the thing here is right. We both agree defense needs to add to the offensive punch a little bit. My thoughts on it, though, personally, like you said, Dobson and Mayfield have 2 goals. Everyone else has less. I'm not super concerned about it because they're still playing well as a whole. Letty's having himself a nice season with 16 points. Pulak, despite not having scored, is getting opportunities, and he's helping create good chances.
He's got to hit the net.
That's the thing. He just has to learn how to hit the net. But I have a feeling once he does, it could come in bunches. So, we'll see how that goes for him. But I don't mind how they're playing right now. I really don't. A couple of times tonight, was really impressed with, Dobson finding a lane to throw the puck on net. A couple of times he saw Letty out in front on top of the crease, and he almost – it was almost an assist on yet another goal from Anders Lee.
It's so funny how we watch these games because I saw a bunch of what I noticed from this game about Dobson is that he keeps hitting these forwards in the shin pads, that he can't get the puck, puck through.
Though?
Every time I'm looking, I get the puck to the point. I'm like, kid, just throw it deep.
It's not just him.
I know.
It's a lot of them.
Every time. Now, look, he's great at exits. Defensive zone exits.
Yeah.
He can move the puck through the neutral zone. He's really good in the offensive zone, but I feel like he gets the puck on a stick at the point, and I feel like, it's going to hit It's gonna hit a defender. It's gonna hit
yeah.
like can't find the, for Pulak can't find the net. He can't even get it near the net. And he gets a lot of good looks. He has to just get that puck deep at a certain point. Like there's a slightly better decision making. I say that from my couch, but it's slightly better decision making and just trying to get the puck deep and recognizing, okay, there's too much traffic. This guy's cutting down the angle. I don't have a shot at getting the puck through. I got to just get it deep. You need to recognize that a little bit sooner, and he'll get there.
Right. The thing for me is, they were also playing Boston, and they're one of the best defensive teams right now in our division. I'm not even going to say the league anymore because we're just playing in a smaller league right now. But they're one of the better defensive teams in the division, and they know how to block lanes. They know how to block shots. So against the Bruins, you might have noticed it a little bit more. But you're right. Absolutely, you're right. I just noticed also the couple of good things that he did where he did find those lanes, and he did, it was one shift, 2 consecutive shots where he threw the puck on net, the lead tip went wide, and he got it back, and he did it again.
He's been great on the pinches. He's able to kind of corral that puck in really tight spaces on the offensive blue line. He's been great in the neutral zone. Yeah. I think what I want, and we're going all over the place. I'm sorry. What I'm really most impressed with the Islanders, and it seems like a really small thing, and maybe it's because I coached. I love their regroups. They're so crisp. Yeah, they're finding ways to make sure that they continue to, and what my coaches say is own the puck.
Yeah.
So you got possession. Don't just give it away. I understand ship and chase and getting it changed and all that kind of stuff, but they're finding ways to keep their head up, either move the puck forward or move it back to their D, and they're supporting each other. You see that, and there were a few different plays, and Dobson, I think, is a big part of that. They kind of tie that in. He's making those good outlet passes after receiving that, and kind of getting away from an oncoming forecheck or whatever the case is, or making a quick up to a player if there's Islanders haven't made a change. It's not a small part of the game, but if you're not used to calling, seeing a neutral zone regroup or kind of going through practice and things like that, it's one of those things where I've noticed, and tonight was really crisp. Like I extra paying attention to after I saw it a couple times. So.
Right, no, 100%. Dobson's really good at zone entries. Letty's really good at zone entries. Barzell, Eberle, Beauvillier, they're all really good at getting the puck in the zone, not just chipping and chasing, but carrying it in, circling back if they need to, getting everybody set up. They have gotten much better at that, because there were a couple of seasons where it was just maddening watching them continue to chip and chase the puck. Never get lose it back.
The puck. They're trying to do just D-to-D passes and the simple stuff, and they couldn't even do these 15-foot passes to each other. And even during that 5-game stretch earlier in the season, they could not make these passes to one another. It was ridiculous.
We're living in very different times now. It's the Barry Trotz era, and I can't help but smile every time I say that. It's like you ever see that video of Paul Rudd where he's like, "Look at us. Who would have thought? Look, not me." It's just, I love it. It's great.
We have to pinch ourselves every once in a while. And this was his 1700th game.
1700th game, yeah. And what a way to win.
And a victory, which is fantastic. So he keeps racking up the wins, although Quenneville's making it a little harder for him to catch.
Yeah.
Because Florida's doing a heck of a job in that division.
I'll tell you what, though. I feel like if this, he's going to coach for a much longer time, in my opinion. He's in his 50s still, Trotz?
I'm so bad at age. People in a room, I can't tell how many people are in a room or how old they are. And if I'm not mistaken, this is year 3 of 5 on his deal.
Yes.
So,
if things continue in this direction for Trotz, he could have the most games coached ever. He's at 1,700 now, and he's still got a long time to go. He's got a lot of kick left in him.
I wonder. Yeah, I think it's too early to start talking about who. We kind of touched on, just because it was a comment in an Arthur Staple article on The Athletic about Chris Lamoriello, and then Lou kind of alluded to a little bit of that as well. It's still too early. I'm not really concerned about much after the free agency begins and going. I have not thought about that expansion draft and things like that. There's a lot to deal with kind of right in front of us. I think all those things are important, and you have to think about them if you're thinking about the trade deadline, and we can talk about that as well. I'm not worried about any post trots. I don't know what that looks like. I don't care to think about what that looks like. I'm happy.
Spoiler alert: he'll be here for a long time. He's not.
My fingers are crossed that he stays healthy and is able to just kind of continue to do this and that. I don't worry about this, but it's one of those things. You don't want the game to pass them by. You want their strategy to continue to work and not just be stuck. Like, it's working right now really well. And you suspect the Islanders have obviously for 3 seasons now really figured something out.
Yeah.
But you don't want the game, like, you want him to continue to adapt and make the changes as they need it to keep the Islanders playing competitively and play the style that he wants.
Right.
While, again, just making small adjustments. So as long as that's happening, I'm happy with him behind the bench.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the player of the week that we spotlighted earlier today. As good as everyone played, and we talked about how good Barzal was last week, and the team as a whole. For us, it was Anders Lee, the captain, leading the way like he has been all year. He's just been fantastic. 14 shots, 3 goals, 4 points. And did you see his goal map that people were tweeting out the other day? 10 of 12 have come from just above the crease. I think the one that was furthest away, I think it was at the top of the circle, was an empty net goal. But he knows his role, and he might be the best at it right now in the NHL. Who's better than Anders Lee in front of the net?
I like that he's kind of got that swagger back a little bit.
Yeah.
And that he's more comfortable there. He just wasn't the same really since Trotz came on board. He was still scoring those goals, and it wasn't like he wasn't scoring any goals. Mm-hmm. But he's way more effective at it this year than he has been in the last 2. And we not only do we need that from the captain, and people were calling for him not to be in the first line, looking at you. Although if he's scoring 10 goals on the third line, I don't care. But it seems to be working. Two kind of quick guys with Barzal and Eberle, and he parks himself in front of the net, power play and whatnot. He's putting them in. I mean, he could end the season with 20 goals, and all 5 of those guys could score 20 goals, and that would kind of be amazing in a regular year. Forget about a year with 30 less games.
Absolutely, yeah. The thing about him this year, and I said earlier today I think at the beginning of the first period, there was a puck that was chipped into the offensive zone. And he put up this burst of speed that I personally have never seen from Lee before. He won the race to the puck. It got deep into the zone, and I wasn't expecting him to win that race. And suddenly he put the Jets on. And I wrote in the article today talking about Lee. He changed his training a little bit. That was something that I hadn't known about Lee in his offseason, and even now whenever he's training, a little more conditioning. A little more strength, and you could definitely tell his strength. I mean, he's always been strong, but this year it's on another level. He's not moving. It doesn't matter if Alex Ovechkin is trying to run into him. He is a brick house this year. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Lee. I'm happy he shut me up. I stay on the first line. I'm fine with it. He's playing great. Don't change a thing.
He's that physical presence. I think every line kind of has their guy. Yeah. Maybe the second line maybe would be Nelson, here and there, but I mean, Beauvillier gets his body involved, so maybe he's the guy on that second line. So
could be.
There's really good balance. Nelson does too. I think Beauvillier tries to play a little bit heavier of a game than maybe what his stature is, but
could be.
I think that the lines are really balanced, and Lee sets the tone. I think that's what he offers. If he's not scoring goals, and he's also doing that, he's got to set the tone that way, that there's effort and all of that. So he's been a fire hydrant. People are just running into him and falling over. Immovable in front of the net, and a couple of really great hits this year that are clean. Yeah. Was it against Boston not too long ago where someone just ran
against Charlie McAvoy?
He came around the net and just bounced off of him. It was fantastic.
And he stopped skating. That was the big thing, right? He stopped skating and McAvoy kind of just turned into him and flattened.
And he didn't even move. Lee didn't even move an inch.
Not even an inch.
It was he literally ran into a brick wall when he hit Lee. So I've not seen that in some time. So his strength, he's getting a little older. He's he hit 30 this year, I think, or he's getting close. So the training's starting to change a little bit. Every once in a while he has that burst of speed. And I think that's good. He's no, Pajot or anything or Barzal, but I think to keep up with Eberle and Barzal on that line, he probably needed to switch up his training a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the week ahead, starting with tonight. Gut check win for the Islanders, winners of 6 in a row, 4-0 against the Bruins, 9-game point streak. And then they have the New Jersey Devils 3 times after tonight. Huge.
Put some points more points in between.
Yeah.
They need 5 of 6.
Before we talk about New Jersey real quick, I just want to quickly talk about tonight's game overall. Like I said, gut check win, really good win. Started really hot. Second half of that first period, they fell off. Then they played second period Islander hockey. It's never really that good. It's never really that bad. And then the third period, it was a little back and forth. Nobody took control of that game. It could have went either way.
And that's been these games outside of the 7-2. It's been these kind of playoff matches, which is good.
Right.
I mean, you want to see the Uns be able to compete with a team with a lot of experience like that.
Right. Yeah. They're putting on a hell of a performance. It's playoff style hockey. Towards the end of that period and overtime, I found myself, I try to stay subjective, right? And then, in overtime, I'm like, objective. Oh my God, these objective. These 2-on-1s get my heart racing, and I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, oh yes. And then I
was a mess in OT.
Me
that
too.
Was miserable.
I was a mess. But they're not the best in OT this year, which is interesting because they typically had been really good, right? They knew how to get Leddy or Barzal the puck when they needed to get them the puck to control the zone and somehow get somebody out of position and score a goal. This year, not so much. They're 0-4 in OT. They win the shootout tonight, which is something they don't usually do either. So I guess we're just switching it up this year. But they get to OT. They win the game, and it was a gritty game that they had to grind out. And, the difference between the Bruins and the Islanders right now is the Islanders have 4 games on them. They won 4 times. So that means nothing once they get to the playoffs. And if they get, into a series with them, it's going to be a hell of a series. It's going to be a hell of a grind.
What was the quote that you tweeted out from the Bruins head coach today?
That the Islanders are the 2013 version of the Bruins, who met the Blackhawks in the 2013 Stanley Cup Finals.
I thought that was really telling because that was a tough team back 7 years ago.
Yeah, Bruce Cassidy compared 2020-21 Islanders to the 2012-2013 Bruins, who I think they lost in 7 games to the Blackhawks. If I'm not mistaken, the following year they go back and they win. But that was really, really tough team. That was prime Chara. That was prime Boychuk. Really hard team to play against. That was, prime Krejci, prime Bergeron. So it was a very, very tough team to play against. I think David Backes was there, right?
He may have been there. I can't.
That was like
remember.
His prime.
Yeah, I think I think what's interesting about that comparison is that's kind of one of the moments or really the moment where the team started to change for the Islanders.
Yeah,
was giving the if you don't remember that series, go back and watch anything that you can find on the Penguins Islanders series that year. They kind of squeak into the playoffs after some years, a bunch of years in the early aughts of the 2000s, making the playoffs. They lose in the first round. They had this kind of ragtag team in 2013 in that lockout shortened season, and they really give the Penguins a run for their money. And I see that, I think Fight Night in 2011 was a really good moment, but I think 2 years later in this playoff series, and I wrote this article for the Hockey Writers as well. It was a really good moment for this team, and there's only a couple players left. There aren't very many, but it turned the franchise into what we see. So that evolution over the last decade, I think is great to see. And it's if this is the end, if this is getting to the apex, or the window is really opening for the Islanders, and they're being compared to a team like the 2013 Bruins, or in and around that area of the Bruins, that is fantastic. Yeah, that's what we want to see.
Absolutely. And hopefully that's telling for what's to come, because we know that they eventually went on to claim hockey's ultimate prize, the Stanley Cup. 3 games against New Jersey this week. I don't anticipate those 3 to be quite as easy as the Buffalo series.
They haven't been. I mean, they've lost to the Devils this year. So
right.
There's something they need to be on their toes.
Right. And like I said, I think we're talking about a completely different Islanders team than they were in the first 10 games, maybe 15 games. But I think they can certainly pull out another 3 wins against the Devils this week. But I wouldn't be upset if they only took 2 out of 3. I think in my opinion, they should take 2 out of 3. New Jersey's a little bit faster. They're a little bit better coached, a little more structured. Plus they have Mackenzie Blackwood, who's been fantastic for the Devils, as opposed to Linus Ullmark and Carter Hutton, who have been good, not great for Buffalo. So we will see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I think 5 of 6 would be maybe what would be the most. I mean, winning all 3 would be ideal, but
yeah,
I think 5 of 6 is not a bad goal, and just kind of again creating that separation. Take advantage of the games in hand that you've played. Create more separation between you and the teams around. Make them play catch up. Continue. I think the most important part is that they win the last 2 against the Devils. Drop the first one, fine, whatever. We can move on. They don't want to lose the 3rd game against the Devils and then go back, and then they have to start playing Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Washington and all that. So create some positive momentum. Winning that 3rd one is going to be probably the hardest one, but that's going to be more, I think, the most important one.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, you get New Jersey Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, followed by a week of Washington, Philly. And then the following week is Philly, Boston, Pittsburgh. So schedule is just getting tougher.
Yeah, those really by the end of that second Philly game next week, we'll know where this team is, because the teams around them will have played a bunch more games, and then they're squaring off against those teams.
Yeah.
So in the next couple of weeks, we'll know. And honestly, that's kind of where I think the real trade deadline is. It's got to be two weeks before the actual trade deadline.
Yeah.
So because the quarantine and this and that, if they're able to even make some kind of deal,
right?
And you can get my thoughts on that also on the Hockey Writers. I dropped that article at some point in the last few days. We're both writing a lot, so it's hard to keep track of these things.
Yeah.
I have a lot of mixed feelings, which is why I didn't choose a side necessarily. I just kind of went through, whether they should or shouldn't do it, and what reasoning there is behind those thoughts. And I'm honestly torn.
Quick thought on the 4th period's report that the Islanders are looking for a 3rd-line scorer, and they're looking towards Florida for Brett Connolly. What's your thought?
I think it's a good move. I think you pointed out the other day that Connolly played for Trotz in the 2018 Cup.
Yep.
And
won it.
And won it. And I think, he's over a 15-goal a season guy. He he came out of the Lightning system and then to the Capitals, or whatever the case is. He's a speedy guy. I think if you're not going to have Komarov in the lineup, he's really just a Dow Cole that can score goals.
That's a good assessment.
That's kind of what it is. As soon as Dalcol, if he ever gets a scoring touch back, really from his junior days, you kind of have a Connolly on your hands. I think that would be a great addition if they can get it. I don't know what his cap hit is. I'm not totally up on that. I think it's a good move. I think it's just, if it's money in, it's money out, and that's kind of where the Islanders sit. So that's where, again, where I touch on in my article, and this is actually one of the points I made, is it's either a second line move to upgrade there to move Bailey down, or it's a straight up move to upgrade Dalcol in the third line just for a scoring threat. And then this article came out the next day from the fourth period. I'm here for that. I think that's the type of move that really makes a difference in the playoffs. The other lines are clicking. I don't know that I would move too many things around. It was either Bailey down the lineup or switching out Dalcol. That's really those are the only moves that I see. I don't see them all of a sudden acquiring a top line winger. They don't really have the assets for it. This isn't real, in my opinion. This isn't the year for that. And Lee is scoring goals. He's a leading goal scorer on the team. Why would you rip him away only to switch him back? And Trotz did this, right? He started trying to move guys around and find some different chemistry and blah, blah, blah. And it just didn't work. And he wound up putting everybody back. Clearly, this is working for now. Until it doesn't work, leave it alone.
Yeah. Find
your hole. Komarov, Dalcol fit for now. But we'll see in the next couple of weeks what the real needs are.
Yeah.
And after that, they'll make the move.
You were totally right. He's a 6th overall pick for Tampa Bay back in the day. Plays with Tampa. I remember
in the crunch. I feel like I saw him play up here.
Yeah. Plays with Tampa, then goes to Boston, Washington, and now Florida. The interesting thing here is his cap hit is $3.5 million a year. He's got 2 years left. The idea proposed was that the Panthers take Komarov back, and there's going to be a consolation prize, whether it's Bellows or maybe some picks. But he has that extra year on his contract.
I like that. I don't mind the term of the extra year. It doesn't make anything. It makes it so that you're maybe not making that offseason move.
Yeah.
So if something comes up, you're kind of in it. Not any more or less than if you had Komarov. So maybe it's just a wash.
Right. And
if you're able to do that, I think that's pretty good. I wonder if you might lose him in the expansion draft, and that's kind of what worries me.
Maybe.
And it depends. And I expect Lou to make a good deal for the Islanders so that they don't necessarily lose anybody. But I would hate to give up. You give up Komarov, that's whatever. I would hate to. One of my points in the article was I would hate to trade Bellows, get some guy, and then lose that guy
before you traded,
and then lose him in the expansion draft. And you're like, so we just lost the asset, and the thing we traded the asset for. And I guess we have cap space, but now we got to find some other guy.
It gets dicey, gets tricky, but
it's a lot of like, I can't think of the term, but like one thing happens and it's just like a snowball effect. And obviously there's always going to be moves to be made. And look, maybe this is, you make those trades and you open up the cap space, and that's ultimately the prize where, okay, so you lost Connolly, but other teams are going to be moving guys around and this and that, and maybe you're able to make a trade and plug that third line hole anyway. So it's possible to work out. I trust Lou until I don't. So we'll see what happens. And again, I think he has something up his sleeve. I don't expect the Islanders to lose Mayfield or something like that. I fully expect them to make some kind of deal. What we didn't touch on is the draft possibly moving, not from this year, but to both drafts being next year. And that maybe complicates things because you might trade away a pick this year and you don't really know what you have. So then all of a sudden next year there's just more players, and it could definitely complicate things as we move forward. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, there was a little more clarity on that today about the draft. I don't think it's actually going to wind up moving. I think I think
that's good. I don't like that you're choosing guys or players that that really haven't played. all that much.
Right. I
That's
think
kind of the point where I think they were trying to get at with moving it, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're moving it. I think they're going to still aim to have it in June. At least that was the murmurs going around today via the Twitter universe. So we'll see where that goes. That'll be another discussion for another time. But that's about it for today. My good friend John, thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Writers, and of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Nassaumen Hockey and find our work at the Hockey Writers. Also, just a quick note, our show is now going to be broadcasted on the Hockey Writers Network via YouTube as well as our own YouTube. So make sure if you really love us that you're checking out both accounts and giving us likes on both accounts over there, because we will be being broadcast 2 different ways. You can also check out our Patreon to support the show and get access to our weekly newsletter, additional articles, and bonus content. Until next time, everybody, let's go Islanders.